Hey guys, hope you're well. In today's video, I want to focus on bottleneck analysis. So bottleneck analysis is extremely important for scaling any business, including an e-com business. So I'm just going to write that here, bottleneck analysis. Now, um, if you don't know who I am, my name is Nail. I'm the founder of Creative E-commerce. I've worked on Shopify stores as a developer, as a conversion rate optimization expert, and as other things as well for a number of years now. I run my own agency called Creative E-commerce. We've worked with some huge brands like Unilever and Graze and Kit Game and Raging Bull and many others as well. And so that qualifies me to talk a little bit about how to scale an e-com brand and some of the learnings that we've experienced working with as many brands as we have done, and myself personally, both inside of an agency, but also as an in-house dev slash CRO guy for brands as well. Now, with regards to bottleneck analysis, as I said, this is super important for really any business that you're on, but obviously we're talking about e-com brands here. So one of the biggest problems with business in general is that people focus on stuff that doesn't actually move the needle when it comes to their business. So let's say, for example, you have, let's say, three things over here that are causing, or things that you can work on, right? So you have three little boxes here that are projects or issues or things that you want to work on in your business. Now, what a lot of founders do is they'll either ignore all of these and focus on random other shit, which is definitely not what you should be doing, or they try and distribute all of their time between all the three things, or they'll just pick something randomly and work on that for that day, and then pick something else randomly and work on that for the next day. Um, what you need to understand though is that all of the problems in your business and all of the things that you could be working on in your business are not created equal. And so what that means is that let's say we have these three issues here, but let's say issue one is responsible for, let's say, 70% of your revenue. And then let's say issue two is responsible for 10% of your revenue. And then let's say that issue three is responsible for 20% of your revenue. Well, if that's the case, then why the hell would you spend all of your time working on issue two or issue three when clearly we have a big winner over here with issue one that is responsible for 70% of your revenue? So, what I want you guys to start to do is think a little bit about what is the biggest driver in your business. Now, in the agency world, for example, when you first start out with an agency, usually the way you acquire clients is through cold outreach. So you'll oftentimes have people, because now me running an agency for a few years now, people who know me want to start their own agency or ask me questions and things like that. And I always say the same thing. It's the way I started. It's the way you should start. You want to do a bunch of cold outreach, right? You want to reach out to brands who are in the niche that you serve. Preferably you've had a job just like I did in that niche prior to starting your agency. You have some experience with brands and businesses in that niche. And you reach out to businesses in that niche and you say, hey, I can help you with X, Y, and Z. Now, oftentimes what will happen is people will say, oh, great, okay, that sounds really good. And then they'll go away and get distracted by some other random shit. They'll start trying to experiment with running paid ads before they have any money. They'll start doing something like trying to go viral on YouTube or trying to go viral on Instagram to get leads. They'll start doing just random stuff that doesn't actually relate to sending cold emails to businesses in their niche, offering them something valuable. And that's all they need to do to get their first two, three, four, five clients, which will then give them enough revenue to then invest in paid ads. Ecom brands, exactly the same thing. You will have a lot of ecom brands that will focus all of their time and all of their attention on marketing. Now, marketing is super important and it's one of the biggest expenditures for an ecom brand, as you guys already know. Most brands spend most of their money on paid ads because they're so expensive to attract customers to their website. But there's a bunch of other stuff that they can be doing to increase revenue and increase profitability as well. So let me give you an example here. Let's say, for example, you're running a Meta ad campaign, right? And let's say you've been working on this Meta ad campaign for, let's say, 3 years. So let's say in year one, so in your first year, you had a 2 ROAS, so not anything too mental. And let's say you spent on average $60,000, right? So you spent 60K on this. Now, let's say you got better at running paid ads, and the time period here doesn't really matter. It could be years, it could be weeks, it could be months. But just for the sake of simplicity, let's say it's years. Year two, you get better running paid ads. You learn better campaign structures, you learn better targeting, you know how to make better creatives, and you have better messaging as well because you know what's working. Okay, so let's say year two, now you have a 4 ROAS, right? And let's say you were able to scale this year as well. So let's say you spent 180K on paid ads. Okay, pretty good year. Things are going well. Um, This is good. A 4 ROAS, especially in today's landscape, is good when it comes to ecom for an extended period of time. You know, if you contrast over the entire year, this isn't bad. So now let's say year three, you also spend all your time trying to perfect your creatives, perfect your ads, get everything as good as it should be. Your ROAS might stay around 4. In fact, it might go down with, random fluctuations. It will be, somewhere between like a 3.5 and like a 4.5 ROAS, right? That's roughly what you'll have. And let's say you scale it again and you spend, let's say, 250K. Ooh. So you spent 250K. At this point, what most founders do, and this drives me a little bit crazy, is they then say, oh my God, our ROAS wasn't an 8 this year. Let's spend year 4 and year 5 and year 6 all spending all our attention and all our time on trying to perfect our paid ads and come out with more creatives and better angles and hiring different marketing agencies and going insane. This is not what you need to be spending your time on right now, okay? You might hit small incremental increases here, but the amount of time that you're spending on this is not worth the reward. So your potential increase this year by dedicating your entire year to spending most of your time trying to improve your paid ads might be an extra 5% in revenue, potentially. It also might not be because of the fluctuations just in ads anyway. On the flip side, let's say, for example, you have never done conversion rate optimization. So let's say over here, you get to year 2, you go to 4 ROAS, 180K, and let's say your conversion rates in year 2 are, let's say, 1.5%. Okay? Not terrible, but also not great either. Now, if you've never done conversion rate optimization and you've never worked on your Shopify store through like a proper UX kind of CRO lens, maybe you've made minor adjustments to it, but you've not made that concerted effort that you've made with paid ads. Let's say you spend that entire year just split testing different landing pages, different offers, different messaging, and making small incremental changes. It's not inconceivable to think that you could hit an average conversion rate that year. I would say even 3%, but let's just say 2%. So you went from 1.5 to 2%. Well, that's an increase by 33% in revenue, right? So over here, the biggest potential increase that we might have is about a 10% increase in ROAS. Whereas over here we have a 33% increase in ROAS just by increasing our conversion rates. And if, let's say, for example, you also focus a little bit on AOV, let's say your AOV over here, just to make the maths easier, was $100. So that AOV is average order value, if you don't know. So let's say your average basket size, the average person checked out with $100 worth of product. Great. Now let's say you increase your AOV by, let's say, 10%. Now the average person checks out with a product worth $110. Okay, so your conversion rates increased by 33%, but your AOV also increased by 10% as well. So your net gain is actually 43%, right? If I've done that maths correctly. So if we contrast 43% to 10%, one is almost, well, actually slightly more than 4 times the other, right? So this is what I mean about bottleneck analysis, is that sometimes you guys have got into a place where you're not doing badly in your metrics, but what sometimes founders do, and this isn't just in e-com, it's in all businesses, is they will aggressively focus on trying to optimize something that has already been optimized to the nth degree, meaning that we can continue to make very minor optimizations to it, but there's a point of diminishing returns. And so what you should be focusing on is the thing that's going to bring you the most returns or the greatest returns, as opposed to focusing on the thing that perhaps has brought you returns in the past or you think will bring you returns, but isn't really your main thing right now. Right now, in this example, focusing on meta ads is block number 2, whereas focusing on CRO and increasing average order value is block number 1. One has way more potential than the other and is a way bigger driver than the other. So that's the one that we want to focus on. So when it comes to bottleneck analysis specifically on e-com stores, one thing that I would say that you want to pay attention to is you want to pay attention to your click-through rate on paid ads. You want to pay attention to your ROAS, obviously. That's kind of the main thing is ROAS. And you want to pay attention to the number of clicks you're getting, right? Unique link clicks if you can, or landing page views. You can also filter for that because sometimes you'll have, if you guys are familiar with Meta's ad manager, you'll have clicks, which is people that clicked on the ad and went to the landing page. But then you'll have landing page views, which is how many people actually landed on the page. Sometimes if your website loads slowly or someone's internet connection is quite bad, they might have clicked on the ad, but they might have never actually made it to the landing page. So you just want to watch out for that. It can be clicks, unique link clicks, or it can be landing page views. What this does is obviously ROAS is the most important thing here because it gives us the profitability of the paid ads. And you guys will know your numbers better than I do, obviously, without kind of getting into your business. How much does your product cost to fulfill on? How much does it cost to make? How much does it cost to ship, etc. And then you can kind of deduce what's the ROAS we need to break even, what do we need to be profitable, etc. Your click-through rate, usually you want that to be above 2%. The higher it is, usually is a good indication, although that's not always the case that high click-through rate ads do also have high ROAS. And then the reason why clicks are important is because we want to know how many people are actually visiting your website, right? And how many people are visiting your store. So let's say, for example, you're running an offer and the offer for your campaign generates 100 clicks, but each of those clicks costs you $5. So it costs you $500 to get 100 landing page views, let's say. Realistically, your conversion rates are not going to be higher than 3% on Shopify. There are exceptions. I mean, we helped a pet brand achieve conversion rates about 14%. They were just under 14%, and that was for a sustained period of time as well. Even right now, I think they're bouncing around the 12% mark. We're still in contact with them. So there are exceptions to this, but most of the time, your conversion rates are not going to be more than 3%. So with that $500, you got 100 clicks. You would expect to make 3 sales. So if you have 100 clicks, that cost us $500, 3% conversion rates, best case scenario. That equals 3 sales. Now, if you are selling a $20 product, you will never make money on this. It's not going to happen, right? Because your $20 product will net you $60 in revenue, and you just spent $500 on paid ads. So this is a pretty good indication that you do not need to be focusing on CRO and increasing average order value. You might increase your average order value by 20%. You might increase your conversion rates by 10%, maybe. I mean, if they're at 3%, they're already good, but they might go up slightly more. Best case scenario, let's say they hit 4%. You're still not going to be profitable. So the issue here is that your CPC, your cost per click, is far too high, and that needs to come down. And the reason why it might be far too high is either because your creatives are really bad or your offer is really bad. Now, you can run some tests and determine that, but that's where your time and energy should be going, right? Because if you don't fix this, you will never be successful. You will never have a profitable business. You need to fix this. On the flip side, let's say that for 100 clicks, it cost you $10, let's say, and each click was, 10 cents, and you still made 3 sales from that. Well, that's amazing then, because that means you have a 6 ROAS, right? You spent $10, you got 100 clicks, you got 3 sales. That's amazing. Now, in that situation, let's say you got that 100 clicks, but let's say you only made 1 sale, conversion rates, were 1%, and your ROAS was 2. That's a good start. That means that we can probably continue running the paid ads as they are. We can scale them up a little bit, but let's do some tests on the landing page to increase its conversion rates. Because if we can get from a 1% to a 2%, your ROAS goes from a 2 to a 4 with exactly the same campaign. Then once we've increased the conversion rates, we can worry about getting other stuff optimized as well. So these are the metrics I'd usually pay attention to, click/CPC, I'd say, inside of the ad campaign, and then that will determine kind of what part of the funnel you want to be focusing on. And then within that, you obviously want to delve in a little bit more as well. When it comes to the website side of things, you want to focus on conversion rates, you want to focus on average order value, you want to focus on abandoned cart and abandoned checkout as well. Obviously, you want those to be as little as possible. And I would also factor in returning customer rate, although that does depend to an extent on the product. Obviously, if you're selling cars, then you probably won't have a high returning customer rate. But if you're selling vitamin C tablets, you will hopefully have a very high returning customer rate. In terms of the back end of the funnel, it's not just the website that we're worrying about. You've also got email marketing there as well. And that's where some of these reactivation and kind of returning customer metrics do come into it as well. Either way, bottleneck analysis, very important. Focus on the thing that will give you the greatest return. Focus on it aggressively and then move on to the next thing. I hope that was useful for you guys. If you need any help on your Shopify store, I have a few links in the description below. Otherwise, wishing you all the best and catch you in the next one.